All right. So have you ever gotten like a restaurant bill where they
Yeah.
just like throw everything on there? Like
Yeah.
appetizers are mixed in with the desserts and you're trying to figure out like who ordered what.
Right.
It's kind of what managing cloud costs can feel like sometimes. Am I right?
Yeah, especially when those costs are constantly changing,
Yes.
like a menu with hourly updates.
Oh my gosh, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But luckily, you have sent over some FinOps framework documentation that's going to help us make sense of this,
Yes.
specifically around invoices and chargebacks.
Okay.
So no more mystery meat charges on our cloud bill.
Hopefully
Gonna
not.
play again.
Absolutely. This is like, we're talking the backbone of cloud financial management here.
Okay.
Making sure your bills accurately
Yeah.
and then really understanding who's using what in your cloud environment.
Yeah. Like, remember when we were talking about tagging resources?
Right.
It felt kind of technical at the time, but this documentation really drives home, like, why that matters when it actually comes to the invoice.
It's the difference between getting a bill that's just like cloud usage, $10,000,
Right.
versus one that says marketing campaign,
Mm.
$3,000,
Oh, wow.
product team database, $5,000. You get the idea.
Okay, so it breaks it down.
Way more granular. Exactly.
That makes sense in theory,
Yeah.
but I'm guessing it's not always that straightforward.
Yeah.
What are some real-world challenges that people hit when they're trying to, like, reconcile their cloud invoices?
Well, I think one of the biggest hurdles is just aligning this continuous flow of cloud usage data
Right.
with a monthly invoice.
Okay.
So you can imagine trying to like fit a puzzle together when the pieces are changing shape in real time.
Oh, I feel that.
Yeah.
Trying to hit a moving target with my budget over here.
Right. And
Yeah.
the documentation mentions timing too.
Yes.
That can be a real pain point.
Yes.
Because imagine you're trying to close the books
Right.
and you need that invoice and it comes days later than expected.
Yeah.
That's where estimations and incomplete data come into play,
Right.
which can be a nightmare.
Yeah. And on top of that, you might be dealing with multiple cloud providers,
Of course.
each with their own little quirks and...
Exactly. It's like deciphering multiple languages on
Sure.
a single bill.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah. This is where I think FinOps really steps in, though,
Okay.
to try and provide some sort of standardized framework
Right.
for managing this.
Okay.
And they actually lay out a maturity model in this documentation,
Yes.
which I think is really helpful.
Yes. And it's like a roadmap of how you can level up your cloud finance game.
Totally.
And it ranges from like simple spreadsheets to like full-blown automation.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
So not everyone needs to reach that like fully automated stage.
Right.
It's about understanding like where are you now and what are those steps to improve.
Yeah. Are you refining tagging strategies, or
Right.
are you implementing certain cost allocation tools, or just are you simply improving communication between teams?
Right. Because ultimately this isn't just a job for the finance team.
No.
Right? I see engineering product, like everyone's got skin in the game.
Everyone. It's a team sport.
Okay.
Emphasized very heavily in this documentation.
Okay.
Engineers need to understand how their coding choices
Right.
impact costs.
Yeah.
Product needs to know how much these new features they're adding
Right.
actually cost to run in the cloud.
Yeah. And then finance, of course, needs to be able to accurately like track and report all of it.
Of course, yeah.
Speaking of tracking costs, let's dive into what I think is a really fascinating world here.
Okay.
Chargeback strategies.
All right.
So we're essentially talking about like who used what.
Yeah.
And we need to figure out how to allocate those costs accordingly.
You got to think of it like splitting the bill after a team dinner.
Okay.
Someone's got to figure out who ordered the extra guac.
Right.
But instead of arguing over appetizers,
Okay.
we're looking at which team is using the most storage or compute power.
Right. Yeah. Or left the lights on in the cloud. I
Yeah.
probably hit that off button.
Okay, so splitting the cloud bill
Yeah.
makes sense in theory,
Right.
but I'm guessing like in practice, not always so simple.
Yeah.
And this documentation actually highlights that there are two main approaches here.
Okay.
Showback and chargeback.
Right.
What's the difference?
Okay. So showback.
Yeah.
Imagine if you just presented your team with like a breakdown of their cloud resource usage.
Okay.
Like, hey, just so you know,
Yeah.
the data science experiments ate up like 60% of our cloud budget this month.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So less about sending them an actual bill
Right.
and more about kind of creating that awareness.
Awareness, transparency,
Yeah.
just kind of a gentle nudge towards cost consciousness.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So chargeback then.
Chargeback is more formal.
Okay.
That's like actually itemizing that dinner bill
Right.
and sending those separate invoices to each team for their share.
Okay. Got it.
So that provides like a direct financial incentive
Fair.
for teams to be more mindful. Yeah, so if showback is like the friendly reminder,
Right.
chargeback is like you ordered it, you pay for it.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
But this documentation actually emphasizes that formal isn't always better.
Right.
Why is that?
Because sometimes simplicity wins.
Okay.
You know, a showback might be enough to encourage that responsible spending in
Yeah.
smaller teams
Right.
or maybe more agile environments.
Okay.
I think they gave an example of a startup
Yeah.
that was using Showback, and they just displayed each team's cloud costs
Oh, wow.
on a screen in their common area.
Interesting.
Just peer pressure can be a powerful motivator.
Right. So you walk by and you're like, oh,
Yeah, look at that.
shoot.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So no need to go full corporate accounting on day one.
Okay, good.
It's really about understanding
Yeah.
your organization's needs
Right.
and their culture. And I think that's where those different maturity levels come in.
Yes.
So we're talking about like crawl, walk, run. You can start simple and then gradually introduce more sophisticated
Right.
chargeback mechanisms as your organization grows.
Okay, so we can like dip our toes in the cost allocation pool
Yeah.
before we like go off the diving board.
Exactly.
Okay. But no matter what approach we take, this documentation really hammers home the importance of like clear communication and collaboration
Oh, absolutely.
between teams.
Communication is key.
Yeah.
It's not just about throwing numbers around.
Right.
It's about fostering that culture
Yeah.
of shared responsibility for these cloud costs.
Right.
And engineering needs to understand how their infrastructure choices impact the bottom line.
Yeah.
Product needs to factor in those cloud costs
Yeah.
when they're making development decisions.
Yeah. And finance needs to clearly communicate
Yes.
those costs back to the teams
100%.
so that everyone's on the same page.
Yeah. Transparency is key.
Yes. Okay. Speaking of clear communication, there's one more piece of this puzzle
Okay.
I'm dying to unpack here.
Yeah.
Shared costs. Yes.
How on earth do you divide up costs
Right.
for things that are like, you know, enterprise support or like those bulk discounts that you get from cloud providers?
Yeah.
Like who gets stuck with those?
The great equalizer, or some might say the headache of cloud finance.
Right.
There's no easy answer.
Okay.
The documentation kind of dives into, how companies wrestle with this.
Right. Because it's not always clear like who the primary beneficiary is.
Exactly.
Right? Like we're all kind of benefiting from that enterprise support contract,
Right.
even if we're not like the ones directly using it.
Exactly. And the documentation highlights some organizations, they'll centralize those shared costs
Okay.
and treat it as a separate budget line item.
Okay.
Others will try to allocate them based on usage, like
Okay.
a proportional split based on each team's overall cloud consumption.
Interesting.
So really,
So no, it's like a one size fits all.
no one size fits all.
It's more about finding the method that really reflects
Yeah.
your organization.
Yeah, organization structure and priorities.
Their priorities, exactly.
Right.
And honestly, this decision often involves like some tough conversations and
Mhm.
trade-offs.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to that transparency,
Yeah.
having a clear decision-making process
Yeah.
and communicating it openly.
Yes. Because resentment over like a surprise cloud bill,
Yes,
it's
exactly.
not what we want.
Not a good look.
Not a good look.
Exactly. And remember, this isn't just like a one-time decision.
Right.
You know, your approach to these shared costs might evolve
Right.
as your organization grows.
Yeah.
And those cloud usage patterns change.
So flexibility and adaptation
Yes.
are key.
Yep.
This is starting to feel less like splitting the bill and more like
Right.
a strategic game of chess over here.
Well, speaking of strategy,
Yes.
the documentation, I think, provides a really insightful breakdown
Okay.
the inputs and the outputs
Yeah.
for effective cloud cost management.
Okay.
That's like a recipe for success.
I like that. A recipe for success. I like that.
Yeah.
So what are those key ingredients we need
Ah.
to gather for this cloud cost management recipe to
Yeah.
turn out right?
You wouldn't start baking a cake without flour or sugar, right?
That's true.
So in the world of cloud finance,
Okay.
those essential ingredients are things like your
Yeah.
tagging strategy,
Okay.
a clear cost allocation model,
Right.
and those general ledger requirements.
Okay.
They sound kind of like jargony words,
Mm-hmm.
but they're really the foundation of
Yes.
accurate and effective cost management.
Okay, so tagging isn't just for organization, it's
Yeah.
actually like baked into the financial side of things.
It's all connected.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about those general ledger requirements?
Okay.
I'll admit that one sounds a little intimidating.
Don't worry, it's not as scary as it sounds.
Okay.
It's really just about making sure that your cloud spending
Okay.
is accurately reflected
Okay.
in your company's overall financial records.
Right.
Think of it like making sure that your grocery receipts
Yeah.
end up in your budget tracker.
Right.
So you have a complete picture of your spending.
Okay, so keeping everything categorized and organized.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, so we've gathered our ingredients.
Yes.
We're following the recipe.
Yeah.
What are those, like, delicious outcomes we get?
Well, instead of delicious cake, we get something even better.
Okay.
Financial clarity.
Okay.
Imagine accurate charges reflected in your financial systems.
Right.
You have a centralized reporting tool that everyone trusts.
Yeah.
And most importantly, clear feedback loops.
Yes.
Between teams.
Right.
So everyone knows the cost of their cloud usage.
Yes.
In real time.
Yeah. It's like we're getting live updates on our spending instead of just this jumbled mess of a bill at the end of the month.
Yes. No more mystery fees.
I like the, okay, and this documentation actually touches on how all of this goes beyond just managing costs.
Right.
It's about actually optimizing them.
Yeah.
And even driving business value.
100%.
How?
Well, because you're moving from being reactive.
Okay.
Like, oh no, the cloud bill is through the roof this month.
Yeah.
To actually being more proactive.
Okay.
Right? When you actually have a good understanding.
Yeah.
A firm grasp on your cloud costs.
Right.
You can start to ask smarter questions.
Right.
Can we switch to a more cost-effective cloud service?
Right.
Do we need to optimize our code?
Yeah.
To reduce any unnecessary usage?
It empowers teams to make more strategic decisions.
Exactly.
Right? I'm picturing like a developer who's about to spin up a whole bunch of servers and now they're thinking twice about it.
Yes, exactly.
Because they're like, oh, wait, this is how much this is actually going to cost.
Yeah.
It's not just some like nebulous cloud out there.
Yeah. You're not just spinning up servers in the ether.
Right.
Like it actually means something.
So it's real world implications.
Yeah. And it's all about aligning your cloud spending with those business goals. We're not stifling innovation, but we want to make sure that those innovative ideas are financially sustainable.
Yeah. Okay, wow. We've gone from like deciphering those cryptic cloud invoices to now we're talking about strategic decision making.
The journey.
And business value.
Yeah.
I love it.
All connected.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening.
It's been a pleasure diving into the nuances of cloud finance with you.
Yes, it's a topic I feel like that is often overlooked, but so crucial in today's world.
Yeah.
For everyone listening out there who is ready to start taming their own cloud costs.
Yeah.
Just remember, knowledge is power.
100%.
The more you understand about how those costs are generated, tracked and allocated, it gives you the ability to make informed decisions.
Absolutely.
And to advocate for that responsible cloud usage within your own teams.
It's about creating that culture of cost consciousness.
Yes.
Where everyone understands the impact of their cloud usage.
Yeah.
And that's how you unlock the full potential of the cloud.
Yes.
Without breaking the bank.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Until next time.
Until next time.
Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.